better be turned back into a human soon, because I'm starting to forget what I bloody looked like. I'm Mad Munchkin and I'm losing my mind. I do have one. Honest. I keep it in a jar, okay? Every so often, more so in animation than live action, a character comes along that I just can't get enough of. Sometimes it's the design I love. Other times, it's simply because of who provided the voice. Other times, it's a mixture of all of these things. But once in a blue moon, a character comes along that becomes an integral part to my enjoyment of a movie or show. You watch the show just to see this character again. I become addicted to them. Is it just me that does that? If so, I really need to seek professional help. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has some of the most memorable characters in animation to date, but the one that stands out the most to me is the one that constantly reminds you, "Hey! You're watching a kids' cartoon, you weirdo!" She teeters on the verge of reality and fantasy within her own world, and often breaks the fourth wall. She's on her own wavelength, completely separate from all the other characters, and she couldn't be more content. She's endearing, lovable, eccentric, hyper, and inventive. Her priority is making friends with everyone she meets and being accepted for who she is, but also making sure everyone else is content and feels included and accepted. She is the embodiment of authenticity and optimism. She can easily overcome intimidation simply by laughing it off, making a joke, or simply remaining blissfully unaware that someone is being mean to her. She's an enigma within the show and has become a fan favourite. With all that said, let's take a look at why Pinkie Pie has become one of my all-time favourite animated characters in history. This is my tribute to Pinkie Pie. Let's get going. Pinkie Pie is one of those characters that is often misinterpreted as the comic relief of the show, and although that is technically true in the sense that she represents the element of laughter, comic relief characters are also often portrayed as the stupid ones, the bumbling idiots, the crazy ones that are just there to inject the show or movie with quirks that no other show has. Quite often they end up painfully forced. Another trait comic relief characters often have is the ability to reference pop culture in an attempt to connect with its audience, quite often to connect with the adult audience. They are the characters where the rules of the animation within a show can be bent and are often used to break the fourth wall, which can be very off-putting and instantly pulls you out of the story if done too often. Perfect example being the genie from Disney's Aladdin, or let's face it, the entire Shrek cast. The genius of MLP is that all these antics of breaking the fourth wall and more cartoony cliches referencing various Chuck Jones cartoons as well as some Tex Avery cartoons is limited to Pinkie Pie, so it is more acceptable and not done too often. Pinkie Pie is a character that is not dumb, nor is she just there to make reference jokes or pop culture references. Not only is she on a completely different wavelength to all the other characters, but quite often she is the first to spot things that no one else can see, like in the second part of the pilot. She's the first to find the book Twilight has spent most of the episode searching for. Quite often she makes out to be the most intelligent of the group, but lacks focus and as a result comes off as an airhead. Pinkie Pie, although not the most focused of characters, is the most observant, and as a result, this also makes her the most impulsive, which could be translated into a weakness. The best example would be the episode Too Many Pinkie Pies, where she clones herself so that she can have fun with all of her friends simultaneously, but loses control over her clones, inadvertently causing a Pinkie outbreak. We see Pinkie Pie lose control not only of her clones, but she also loses her optimism and confidence in herself and gives up on reality and begins to doubt whether she is in fact the real Pinkie Pie or not. This is the episode where Pinkie Pie has an identity crisis, which was sort of predictable considering the clones and the theme of the episode. Ironically, this episode happens to be my least favourite of the entire show. Why? Maybe it's just too much of a good thing. Most of you know how I feel about constant pop culture references in an animated show, and this episode threw so many that I just gave up on it halfway through. Less is more, as they say, though the G3 reference did make me spit my coffee all over my computer. No, really, that actually happened. Not to mention, the multiplication or cloning plot has been overdone in animation, and although the lesson here is not so much about being unique or learning not to be impulsive, the lesson is more about knowing that it's okay to choose who you hang out with. True friends won't care who you choose, they'll know you'll make time for everyone. Dragon Shy is obviously not a Pinkie Pie episode, but it does have some of my favourite character moments from Pinkie Pie, mainly this one. I find this moment one of the best to describe Pinkie Pie when comparing her to the character of Daffy Duck. Bear with me, this is relevant. Daffy Duck is one of the most inauthentic characters in animation and has delusions of grandeur and is constantly on the lookout to push people aside to get to where he wants to be, the top. So when he enters a world full of abnormalities and is no longer in control, like in the episode Duck Amuck, he understandably goes absolutely crazy. Pinkie Pie, dressed in a similar form to how Daffy is portrayed in the episode, is of course in a constant realm of abnormality and reels ponies in with her carefree optimism. The two characters are perfect to compare because although they are polar opposites, they both have the same optimism and concerns about being accepted and respected, even if Pinkie Pie isn't fully aware of this side of her. In Griffin the Brush-Off, Gilda is very similar to Daffy Duck here in the sense she sees how innocent and carefree Pinkie Pie is and how popular she is because of that and how appealing she is to Rainbow Dash, and sees Pinkie Pie as a threat because she is the polar opposite of her. Pinkie doesn't have to try to be popular, she just is. Gilda is a bully who, like Daffy Duck, has delusions of grandeur and is a bit of a rebel. Again, not one of my favourite episodes, but it does develop the friendship between Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash. We see a wonderful nod to Pepe Le Pew here in Pinkie Pie's animation when chasing after Rainbow Dash, who is trying to avoid her. In the episode A Friend Indeed, we see Pinkie Pie from the perspective of another polar opposite, but this time it's not the polar opposite of authenticity, but rather the polar opposite of another Pinkie Pie's main character traits, optimism. Cranky is a character that has clearly lost all reason to be happy and just wants to be left alone, but when he meets Pinkie Pie, she can't process this pessimism and decides to do everything she can to make him happy again and be his friend. Here, Pinkie encounters someone that doesn't want to even interact with her, never mind be friends. Pinkie just can't take a hint or process this. She can't take no for an answer. She won't give up on him. She won't stop trying to fix whatever it is that happened that made him lose his smile. Here is where we see that Pinkie Pie not only has an eidetic memory, which we've seen proof of in previous episodes, but here we see her use that to repair Cranky's life and reunite him with a long-lost love. We completely side with Cranky here at times because of how aggravating and annoying Pinkie Pie is, and how intrusive she is. She has no concept of personal boundaries, and for a character who is very private, that can be seen as very threatening. After accidentally burning a scrapbook of his, Cranky completely loses it and rejects Pinkie Pie's offer of friendship, stating he will never be friends with her. But because of Pinkie's eidetic memory, she remembers someone else who had the same pictures that were in his scrapbook and succeeds in reuniting Cranky with his long-lost love, Matilda, who we see at the beginning of the episode, who asks Pinkie Pie how she remembers everything about everyone. It's not her eidetic memory alone, since she seems to be blissfully unaware of it, but rather the want of seeing her friends smile. She says it makes her life worthwhile in the song Smile, which has to be the best song out of the whole series of MLP. So when she encounters someone who won't smile, she goes through a mini life crisis in a way. But once she makes him smile, she literally takes off into the sky, full of fulfillment of having made a new, lifelong friend who will forever be eternally grateful for what she did for him. This is one of my favourite Pinkie Pie episodes, but there's another that I really need to mention here, as most of you will probably consider the best Pinkie Pie episode to be Party of One, but also one of the best MLP episodes overall. This is because this is an episode that we see Pinkie Pie break. I'm a little bit sadistic, as you know. I love to see characters I adore go through psychological trauma, and in animation, that is shown in a much more surrealistic and dreamlike way, especially in MLP episodes where Pinkie Pie is the focus. The moment when Pinkie Pie convinces herself that her friends don't like her parties and don't want to be her friends anymore was the moment I fell in love with this character. Most of us can relate to the paranoia that our friends aren't being real with us and don't accept us for who we are, and so as a result we attempt to change ourselves so we are accepted. Pinkie Pie, though, being the embodiment of authenticity within MLP, cannot change. She is a constant. The very concept of changing to suit other people so they like her and accept her doesn't compute with her. I guess this trait can be compared to characters like the Joker. Bear with me here. It's not just another random fangirlism. This is relevant. Like Pinkie Pie, the Joker is a clown in every sense of the word. He won't change and cannot be changed. He is a constant within his own world. Unlike Pinkie Pie, though, he has no hang-ups on whether he is accepted or not. That's not important to a character like the Joker, because he is an antagonist. My point is that the minute Pinkie Pie believes she is not accepted, she becomes angsty, angry and stubborn, and wants to remain and wallow in her own miserable party of one. When this is challenged by Rainbow Dash, we see a side of Pinkie Pie that suggests that she has the potential of being a pretty powerful antagonist. What is this obsession with characters transforming from good to evil with me? God's sake! I guess I like to see the good and bad points in a character, their strengths and weaknesses, and seeing this for me makes them more relatable and more human. For me, Pinkie Pie is a character that always makes me smile, might it be the eccentric, exaggerated animation unique only to her character, the reference and jokes she makes, her charm and innocence, her cute little happy noises she makes, how her brain works at over 1,000 miles an hour, how she flips from sad to happy in moments. I could go on. They say ignorance is bliss, and although that is true, that isn't to say that Pinkie Pie is stupid. She's probably the most intelligent next to Twilight, but lacks the focus to channel this intelligence, and instead it comes out as spontaneous explosions of creativity. She is completely unaware of her eidetic memory, even if she does use it on a daily basis. She never brags about it or uses it to show others up. Instead, she uses it to brighten everyone else's day. Yes, there are days that are dark and lonely, and on those days I do find myself watching Pinkie Pie episodes of MLP and suddenly I'm all cheered up. Authenticity is a trait I look for in people I meet, as well as characters, and when that comes along with a contagious optimism like Pinkie Pie's, I just can't get enough of it. And that is why she is not only one of my favourite characters in the show, but quite possibly one of my all-time favourite characters ever invented, live action or animated. And that concludes My Little Pony series of review videos. More will probably come when season 4 starts in October, and I guess I will probably end up doing more at some point anyway, but for now I'm finished. So let's finish this video with the invisible magical being returning me to my human form at long last. Finally. Thank you. I'm Mad Munchkin. Stay creative.